To pitch or not to pitch? That is the question.
Welcome to Not Safe for Words. I'm your host, Crystal L. Kirkham, multi-genre author, editor, and cover designer. I'm here to give you insight into the world of publishing and to help you avoid the mistakes that others have made. So stick around, you're in for one hell of a ride where I don't curb the curses.
So your manuscript is ready. You've decided you wanted to go more of an indie or traditional publishing route in hopes of finding somebody to take that novel and put it out into the world for you. So where the fuck do you start? Well, one of the places you can start is what's called a Twitter pitch event. Now, in my opinion, this is one of the greatest opportunities for modern writers because it takes some of the guesswork of who might actually want to hear about your story out of the equation. Because traditionally, you're going to go through something like manuscript wish list, read through agents' wants and likes. You're going to find publishers that are accepting unagented manuscripts, and you're going to send it out, cross your fingers, and pray to God that one of them says, "Hey, I like this. Could you send me the rest?" What a pitch event does is bring editors and agents and publishers looking at your pitch and going, "That sounds interesting. I think I want to hear more." So you've already got that one little foot in the door, which is a wonderful opportunity, and hopefully your manuscript follows through with what they expect from your pitch. I really wish this next part could go without saying. You better have a whole fucking complete manuscript that is as well edited and ready to go out as you can. Hopefully you listened to the last episode about whether or not it's ready, because that's going to be a huge part of this. And there's a few other things that I've seen authors out there, they're doing pitch events and they're getting in their own fucking way because they're not following the rules or they're not doing things properly to really get noticed. The one downfall, the biggest downfall really, of Twitter pitch events is everyone is doing it. And everyone is putting out multiple pitches for their stories, hoping that one of them will stick in someone's mind. And it goes on all day. So we're talking hundreds of thousands of tweets per pitch event that an author and agent is going to be seeing, and you really need yours to stand out. Personally, I fucking love Twitter pitch events. I'm addicted to them. Before I ever even pitched my first novel in one, I was reading through them and finding ones I liked, ones that really resonated in me. And I still love to read pitch events when I have the time. They're so much fun. There's so many great stories out there. And there's so many authors, I've seen their pitches and I've gone, wow, somebody's going to sign that. Some of them have been my friends. Some of them are just ones that I started following based on a pitch because it was that good. But that's the trick really, is that you need to write a pitch that really stands out from the crowd. And the ones I've talked about, they did. They wrote a pitch that stood up from the crowd. And not only that, they had a manuscript that followed suit when they submitted it to those who requested. So how do you get to be one of those people whose pitch on Twitter really wows those who are reading it? And because I'm addicted to this, I really want to talk to people because I've seen so many authors really fuck their chances up. It's a really good tweet, but it's remembering some important shit. Or it's doing things that is really something that they advise against for these pitch events. Now, number one thing that you're going to do before you do any of these Twitter pitch events is you're going to go to the host website and read the fucking rules. It ain't hard. It isn't going to take you an hour. They're very simple. Just read them and actually try and follow them, because the other thing you're going to find on these websites are the hashtags, which are critical to getting your tweet noticed by the right people. Because there are so many authors doing this, What a lot of agents and publishers and editors who are looking at them for request reasons are doing is that they are filtering them by genre and by age group for some of them to be able to find what they are looking for. If I only represent adult paranormal novels, I don't want to be looking at young adult romances. So I'm not going to look at those. And what's going to happen is if you don't put the hashtags in for your genre and for your age group, your tweet is likely to get missed by quite a lot of people that are looking for perhaps exactly what you're trying to offer. But you didn't read the rules, you didn't put in the hashtags, you aren't going to get noticed. Of course, speaking about genre, make sure you actually know what your genre is. And you might think that's a hard thing to fuck up, but we're going to get into that on a later episode because it happens a lot. Okay, so that's probably the biggest number one thing I see people fucking up that can be very, very easily fixed. Now, about the Twitter pitch. Obviously, I've said a few times, it has to stand out, but it also has to really cover your major plot line and really give an idea of the genre, tone, and setting in less than 280 words, because you still need room for those fucking hashtags, which is hard, especially if you have multiple plot lines in your story or it's a series. It really becomes harder. So you really want to focus on the book you're pitching, and you want to focus on the most major of the plot lines, maybe one subplot at the most. And the reason for this is because you don't want to make that tweet overly complicated or overly confusing, because it's not going to look well for you or your novel if you're losing somebody's attention in under 280 characters. Once you have those plot lines narrowed down, the next thing you're going to focus on is your characters. And much like your plot lines, you don't want to include too much. You're going to focus on the main character, maybe one other primary character at the most, especially if you're naming them by name. You don't want a whole bunch of names in there. It's just going to take up space that you can use to get people interested in your pitch. Now, the other focus is what makes your plot line unique from all the other ones like it, which can be hard. So you're going to be doing a lot of writing. That's the biggest advice I can give you about doing Twitter pitch events, is you want to write your pitches months in advance even. You want to keep working at them until they sound like your story, but they still stand out differently from all the other stories that are like yours. If you wrote an epic adventure, you don't want to just say, a bunch of friends go on a journey. That's not interesting. There are thousands of books that fit that description. You want to focus on what makes your story different, what makes your story more interesting than anybody else's. As much as you want to get across the fact that it's an epic fantasy, you also want to focus on what makes it different from the other epic fantasies out there. What makes your story interesting? So if we're talking about, let's say, the adventure fantasy I wrote, I focused on the fact that it is, number one, an intrusion fantasy. Secondly, I focused around the fact that it involves a huge web of lies and secrets. And that was the interesting part of my intrusion fantasy, is that web of lies that unravels, that nearly destroys not only this friendship, but perhaps all the worlds in existence. So that's what you're going to try and highlight, those differences, what makes it unique, what makes it interesting, and do try and keep it concise. Now, as I said earlier, I do recommend writing your pitches in advance, because that gives you a chance to start off with something that's way too long to fit into a tweet, and then work on polishing it down, getting it concise and simple and interesting. And it gives you a chance to try out a bunch of different pitches and see if they work. Now, a few other things about pitch events. Number one, leave the title out of your pitch. Number one, it is taking up character space that you can use for actually writing the fucking pitch. And number two, nobody asked for it. It's something that might not even be the same by the time your book is published. So that's something you're going to send to the agent or editor or publisher when they request your manuscript. You don't need to use up Twitter space for your own title. The other thing I want to talk about, and it's a topic that's going to come up at some point during this podcast, which is comparison titles. Personally, I fucking hate them because what somebody's asking with a comparison title is, tell me exactly what your book is like so I know how to market it, but also make sure it's something current but not too popular, and also tell me why your book is different from this. Honestly, comparison titles I find are more useful in a query than in your tweets. But if you do have a really good comparison title, you can put that in if there's room. I prefer to save the room for making my pitch awesome. Of course, there are publishers and agents and editors that actually do want those comparison titles and are looking for them. So do be aware of them, that to use them or not to use them should be a conscious choice every time you do it. Just because I choose not to doesn't mean you should either. This is up to you. You need to figure out what works for you. And one last word on pitch events, because it's something that a lot of people don't seem to realize. They think, hey, I get these great pitches out there and I get the likes and I get the agents. A lot of people find that it takes a few times before they actually start really getting those likes and retweets and stuff like that. And speaking of likes and retweets, take the time to ask your friends on Twitter to retweet and comment, but not like, your pitches, because that actually helps bring them to the forefront of the algorithms to get them noticed, because it becomes a popular tweet. And the more popular a tweet is, the more likely it is to show up on somebody's feed, including those of agents, editors, and publishers. So good luck with your pitch events. If you choose to do them, make sure you're ready, practice those pitches, get them perfect, and polish them to a beautiful shine. This has been another episode of Not Safe for Words. I hope you found some useful advice here today. If you have feedback on this or any other episode, tweet me or leave a voicemail on Anchor FM. Don't forget to join me next time for more publishing and writing insights. Thanks for listening.